Against Xenophobia say that they're pleased by Ramaphosa's pushing back against those who are involved, for instance, in Operation Dudula. Ramaphosa has labeled the group as a vigilante-like force, and this comes after widespread criticism was leveled both against this group and government for their response to the country's immigration challenges, which led to unchecked crime in places like Diepsloot. Kopanang Africa is arguing that acts of vigilantism may have been encouraged by forces with a vested interest in undermining South Africa's democracy. Let's get your sense of what else the group is thinking and make sense of the events that unfolded in the week gone by. There you can see there the organization's spokesperson, Dr. Trevor Ngwane, who joins us via our video link. It's great to have you on the program, sir. Thank you, as always, for making time. So much taking place in the week gone by. In fact, the president being asked to weigh in as early as this morning. But it was interesting to hear what Police Minister Begitele had to say yesterday. He has moved away from describing what's taking place in Diepsloot as being prompted by xenophobia. He says at the heart of the issues are actually crimes that happen to be committed mostly by foreign nationals. Is that how you also see it?
Not at all. You know, in a way, thank you for having me in this platform. In a way, we are all being called upon to support and to be implicated in xenophobic attacks against African immigrants. And, you know, ministers like Begitele, you know, even these movements, Operation Dudula, they find ways to hide and disguise, you know, the xenophobic intent of their actions, of their violence, of their speeches. But we all know that, you know, the biggest culprit is the ANC government itself, you know, because it's busy with institutional and policy xenophobia. You know, it's refusing to renew the Zimbabwean exemption permit. It's not providing immigrants with documents. Its refugee centers, reception centers are closed down. You know, if you want to renew your visa or permit and you were born somewhere north of Limpopo, you know, you are told to go online on the portal, which doesn't work. You know, so the ANC government must take the blame for what is going on.
I wonder if we can spend time, Dr. Ngwane, to speak about psychologically what is currently taking place. You know, I'm reminded, for instance, while I was still a student myself, coming across texts by the likes of Frantz Fanon, for instance, who speaks about the pitfalls of national consciousness, essentially warning Africans specifically for using people from other countries as proxies to their own problems. To what extent do you reckon that's currently taking place at the moment?
Yeah, exactly. I'm so happy you raised that document, which everyone must read, actually, you know, The Wretched of the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Fanon, you know, hits the nail on the head. So on the one hand, we've got you know, failed governments, failed political parties like the ANC, who have failed really to improve the lives of the working class and the poor significantly. So now they are scapegoating, you know, African immigrants, blaming them for all sorts of things. But we also find certain opportunistic leaders, you know, who are creating so-called movements, who actually are connecting with the frustration and anger, you know, of ordinary people. Some of these ordinary people, by the way, are supporters of the ANC. So rather than saying the ANC has failed us, you know, it's easier for them to be misled and misdirected to direct their anger at, you know, African immigrants. Of course, if my child is taking drugs, you know, is drinking beer, is, you know, because of unemployment or frustration, you know, I'm not going to say I'm a bad parent. I'll look around and find a scapegoat. No, it's the Mozambicans down the road who are selling drugs. Some kids are smoking, you know, drugs. Others are not. You know, the question is, why are you doing that? So, in a way, you know, we have to take responsibility and address the situation as it is rather than find a scapegoat.
Absolutely. And, you know, I want to do that without downplaying what residents have told us themselves. I think, you know, there needs to be a level of reverence to their own lived experience. Many of them are unequivocal in what they've mentioned insofar as them putting the blame on crime on the footsteps of people who come from outside the country. It does point to the lapses in our ability as South Africa to implement our own laws. How do we both ensure that foreign nationals aren't easy targets without being dismissive of what is actually taking place on the ground in a context where, foreign nationals are believed to be behind crime?
Yeah, so I think that, some of these opportunistic leaders, even government leaders, they thrive on the ignorance or little knowledge, information on the part of the masses. So, for example, Minister Pegitsele was saying yesterday, there are 11,000 foreign immigrants in prison. But how big is the prison population? And in fact, I calculated, that is like less than 8%, 7% of the prison population, which corresponds with the number of the proportion of immigrants in South Africa. So it makes sense that, 8% of them would be in jail, because they are 8% of the population. So, I'm just saying, if we also provide ordinary people, the masses, with the facts, so we have to contest the narrative which is being pushed. Minister Mtswaledi, when he was still Minister of Health, he once said that half the babies being born in some hospital are immigrants, and, research hasn't corroborated that. So there are so many ways in which, reality is twisted, facts are misrepresented, to actually allow xenophobia to thrive.
Speaking about contested narratives, the government yesterday announcing Operation Restore, which I imagine is meant to work against the work of Operation Dudula in some respects. One can't help but make those connections, even if government didn't do that for us. Operation Restore, whatever it entails, for you, what needs to happen for it to be effective?
Well, firstly, the government must come out clearly straight against xenophobia. That is why, Kopanang Africa Against Xenophobia supported the president's statement. We need clear statements. But at the moment, what you are getting from these ministers is mixed messages. Can you see? So, for example, someone dies, gets burned to death. Mr. Elvis Nyati gets burned to death. And what is the story? Let's have raids, to find out whether people have got documents. Not going out to find the murderers, those people who killed Mr. Elvis Nyati. Operation Dudula people, leaders, were working, side by side with the minister in the area where we know that Operation Dudula incited the violence which led to the death of, Nyati. So I think that Operation Restore must separate, between the work of immigration control, whatever, and the fight against crime, etc., etc., etc.
Dr. Trevor Ngwane, thanks very much indeed for your take. Really do appreciate it. We'll keep watching this story as it continues to develop. Dr. Ngwane is a spokesperson for Kopanang Africa Against Xenophobia. It's a broad organization of a broad coalition of organizations, if you like, that do work that's aimed at combating xenophobia and their sentiments. And there's certainly no doubt that we've seen much of that in some respects, even though it's contested in the developments that unfolded in Diepsloot. All right.